We are now on chapter 17. So we have all these different dogs that are in the dog depository, also known as the pound. And I'm trying to find the name. The National Last Ditch Dog Depository. Hopefully for them to get adopted, but they are all the outcasts, the ones that have not been adopted. My guess is because of the variety of different things about the dogs. I would love to have a blue and purple dog. I think that would be pretty amazing. Chapter 17 is entitled Betrayed. Sam dashed out of the ancient fort and into the frigid night. He looked back to see a series of crumbling walls hewn from massive red granite. It looked like it was a forgotten prison from a long ago war, rotting in a frozen marsh. A sign leading from the wind read, "Adoptions on Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. Someone had scratched out the times with a marker, scrawling underneath, "Don't bother." Where was he? The hills looked familiar. He was at the edge of a familiar city. He sniffed at the freezing air. 1,000 scents flooded in. But it wasn't difficult picking out the smoldering alder wood in the fireplace of Hamish's upstairs study. He sniffed. He was about 5, maybe 4 miles away. He followed the river. As Sam started off, he looked back at the gloomy stone citadel from which he had just emerged. Won't be coming back here, he thought. Back inside and below the old fort, down in its darkest recesses, the homeless, unwanted lost dogs of the National Last Ditch Dog Depository pushed the start button on the VCR and huddled together as Lassie Came Home started again. Madam looked up the winding stairs that the strange new dachshund had just ascended. The others noticed her looking and looked at her. Then, on cue, they all said in chorus, "He'll be back." Staying to the shadows of the riverbank, Sam ran west. He would find Heidi, and she would somehow understand everything was a mistake. That it was Cassius, not Sam, not he that was the danger. Breathing hard, Sam looked through the fresh snow, lit brightly by a new emerged moon. His head throbbed as he reached a low draw in the hills where the wall crossed the stream, now frozen. A large drain pipe emerged below the stonework, the way he and Heidi would sneak out of the estate when she was supposed to be doing her chores. Sam stepped into its darkness. He froze at a familiar voice in the blackness inches from his face. "They say poodles are the smartest breed. Alas, dear departed Sam, it's true." Sam backed from the pipe, startled. Cassius emerged into the moonlight and stood over the dachshund, now balanced awkwardly on the rocks of the frozen stream. "Move aside," said Sam, regaining his composure. "Poor, beautiful, perfect Sam the lion. Your Heidi doesn't love you now, dear boy. Let's review." Cassius thought carefully, fluffing the curled fur around his ankles with his lips. "You're imperfect, sick, violent, ugly." The words cut into Sam and found purchase in a mind still trying to make sense of the senseless. But he raised his head higher. "Move, Cassius. She still wants me." "No. She has me now," said the poodle. The words stung Sam as if they had slapped him. The terrible truth behind the unspeakable events of the day came tumbling down upon Sam, and he grew dizzy. Everything had been a cruel hoax. Cassius was never after the baby. He was after him. "Move away, Cassius," said Sam, desperation edging into his voice. "You're not clear on this, Dachshund. She doesn't want you now. You're not the perfect dog you were." Sam looked at his reflection in the ice. A filthy, ripped face looked back. Blood still caked to his fur. "I'll be back again," said Sam. But Cassius was already stepping toward him. The perfectly combed balls of poodle fur blocking the moonlight and casting Sam into shadow. Sam stepped backward while Cassius lowered his head, stared intently, and spoke low. Each terrible word falling from his mouth was a rolling puff of steam into the frigid air. "You know, dear Sam, some believe that for the dirty, unwanted, broken, stray mongrels of the world, there's a guardian angel. I think that must be true. Those lesser dogs have nobody else, do they? Nobody but an angel would want them. They say she's quite beautiful, descending down a glimmering beam of blue light when death arrives, offering the flawed, unwanted souls a second chance. I think it's time you met her. Cassius stepped again towards Sam, who again stepped backwards. I'm not unwanted, Sam said, his voice rising, and I'm not flawed. Cassius smiled oddly and forced Sam backward another inch. Yes, you are.
What does flawed mean?
Flawed means like has issues. Something's wrong with him. Flawed. So if you take a look at that picture, what's happening to Sam? We're on page 105. So as Sam steps backwards, what's he step on?
Trap.
He steps into a trap, and it clasps around his leg. At that precise moment, Sam's left rear foot stepped back onto the trigger plate of an open-leg steel trap, freshly set for the winter beaver season. The jagged metal jaws came together several inches above Sam's foot, crushing the bone, the sound echoing off the Vermont hills like a rifle shot. Sam rolled onto his back, reflexively kicking the air, his mouth flying open in a tortured howl of pain, swallowed up by the cruel silence of the falling snow in a day at long last exhausted of heartbreak. Chapter 18.